The episode begins with a prisoner named Lawton, who later comes to be known as Deadshot for his excellent shooting skills, being escorted to the execution chamber. When the priest with him asks him if he needs him to make a prayer, Lawton only smiles and claims that he does not need any prayers. Just then, they arrive at the execution chamber, and a police officer opens the door to take him inside. To everyone's surprise, they find Colonel Rick Flagg waiting for them inside. When the warden asks him what is going on, the colonel hands him a document. As soon as the warden reads the document, he tells the officer to release the prisoner without giving him further explanation. Lawton happily accompanies the colonel and leaves the facility. Sometime later, while they are on the road, the colonel introduces himself to Lawton, who does not seem interested in knowing where they are going. He reaches for the door handle, but the colonel's sharp eye catches the movement and he warns Lawton from making any stupid moves. He then asks Lawton how his last meal was, and he responds by saying that the lobster was perfect. To his horror, the colonel reveals that it was laced with explosive nanites, and if he tries to escape, his head will explode. However, despite knowing that he could die at any moment, Lawton is not fazed since he knows that there is more to the story. He asks the colonel why he would go through so much trouble to keep him alive. At this point, the colonel reveals that he needs Lawton to complete a mission for him. This gets Lawton excited, who then asks him for details. The colonel hands him a manila folder, and when Lawton pulls out a picture of the watchtower, he realizes that his mission is going to be more interesting than he had anticipated. The colonel goes on to say that he needs Lawton to break into the Justice League headquarters. The next morning, both Colonel Flagg and Lawton arrive at an abandoned warehouse at the seaport. Lawton claims that they should find somewhere secure to talk about since the Justice League has very good eyes and ears, but the colonel remains unfazed. He tells Lawton that the previous tenant was very good about security. This is when Lawton notices that 3 more people are waiting for them inside the warehouse. The colonel introduces Lawton to Task Force X, which consists of George Harkness, aka Captain Boomerang, who is an expert thief and inventor; Temple Fugate, also known as the Clock King, due to his expertise with locks and system infiltration; and Betty Sans Souci, aka Plastique, who is an explosives expert. Lawton immediately recognizes Betty and tries to flirt with her, but she is quick to shut his advances down. When both Captain Boomerang and the Clock King insist that they should get down to business, the colonel pulls up the projector and displays the entire layout of the watchtower. Captain Boomerang wonders how they are ever going to get inside since the Justice League headquarters is a fortress that is crawling with superheroes. However, the colonel assures them that they have an advantage over the superheroes, claiming that since the watchtower is so big, no one will notice them coming in or going out if none of them do anything to draw their attention towards them. He then points to the screen and tells them that once they are on board, Plastique and Deadshot will make their way down to the watchtower's arc reactor, where Plastique will create a diversion. Hearing this, Deadshot asks if he will be doing anything, but the colonel tells him that he will only be accompanying Plastique to keep a lookout. Meanwhile, the colonel and Captain Boomerang will make their way to the package, which is being kept in storage. Captain Boomerang thinks that the colonel is being overly ambitious with the plan, and that things will not be as easy as he thinks. However, this is where the Clock King comes in. He reveals that a strict schedule is followed at the watchtower. Since he has been studying the schedule thoroughly for months, he has made sure that Task Force X infiltrates the tower while it is at its weakest. Despite this, Captain Boomerang thinks that even at its weakest, the Justice League is still very strong. The Clock King then tells them that 3 major obstacles might appear in their way. The first one is Captain Atom, Green Lantern, who can create objects using his ring when he thinks about them, and John, the Martian Manhunter, who has various abilities including shapeshifting and being able to read minds. Task Force X spends the entire night planning their infiltration into the Justice League headquarters, trying to cover every scenario. Once satisfied, the Colonel puts the plan into action. The next day, they dressed up as the maintenance crew and took down the original crew who was due for their shift. As soon as they steal the original crew's identities, they are teleported into the watchtower. Just as Plastique scans her ID card, the Colonel messes with the scanner using special tech. At first, the guard tells them that they will have to wait until tech support arrives, but when the Colonel tells him that they are late to meet John, he lets them go. Once they are on the elevator, everyone quickly prepares their weapons. Deadshot notices that the Colonel has no weapons and asks him if he is planning on going in unarmed, but Captain Boomerang reveals that he does not need any weapons. Soon after, the task force splits up with Deadshot and Plastique heading towards the Watchtower's arc reactor. They are joined by Green Lantern on the elevator, but since he does not think they are suspicious, he completely ignores them. On the other end, the Colonel and Captain Boomerang reach the storage area just as they hear loud footsteps heading their way. They quickly hide only to find Atom Crushes passing by. Once he leaves, the Colonel reports back to the Clock King and tells him that they have reached the checkpoint. As soon as they open the storage door, the Clock King tells them that they are behind schedule by a few minutes. The Colonel tries to pick up the pace, but when the two of them enter through the door, they find another door inside. He claims that he was not aware there was another door, but the Clock King only responds by saying that they should leave the area since there are only a few seconds left before the regular security sweep. Meanwhile, Plastique finishes setting up explosives, while Deadshot keeps a lookout. When he becomes distracted for a moment, one of the staff members notices him and attacks him. However, he knocks the man unconscious before leaving the reactor chamber with Plastique. Back in the storage chamber, the Clock King tells the Colonel to use explosives to destroy the door. Just as the explosives in the reactor chamber go off, Captain Boomerang uses this as a distraction to blow up the door, allowing the two of them to make their way inside. At the same time, John tells all personnel to evacuate the watchtower as the radiation levels begin to get dangerously high. He tells Captain Atom to check the area out and make sure that everyone gets out safely. In the meantime, the Colonel shows Captain Boomerang the package, which is the Annihilator armor. To activate it, the Colonel punches the unsuspecting captain, who angrily asks him what he is doing. This is when he notices that the armor is starting to move, and realizes that it is activated by rage. As they wait for the others to join them, Plastique and Deadshot quickly make their way toward the storage chamber. Before they can reach the door, it closes. To their surprise, Captain Atom opens the door for them, assuming that they are Watchtower personnel, and lets them go through. With the task force reunited again, they head for the control room so that they can teleport back to Earth. While Captain Atom tries to contain the radiation, he contacts John and tells him that the explosion was not an accident. Meanwhile, the task force who are headed for the control room is stopped by superheroes including Atom Crusher, who immediately recognize them as the ones responsible for the explosions. They attack the task force but are no match for them as the Annihilator armor assists them. Not long after that, they reach the control room where John is waiting for them. He attacks Plastique first and knocks her unconscious before turning towards the others. He manages to take all of them down but does not see the Annihilator armor coming for him. The armor picks him up before tearing him into two. As John recovers from the attack, he contacts Green Lantern and asks him for help. He then gets back up and fights the armor, but before he can get to the task force, Plastique threatens to throw an explosive into Atom Crusher's mouth. However, Captain Atom appears behind her and attacks, causing her to lose her hold on the explosive. Deadshot takes this chance to blow up the explosive, giving the rest of the task force a chance to return back home. Once the smoke clears up, John hears Plastique groaning in pain and asks Captain Atom to tend to her injuries. When Gian tries to retrace their location, he finds that they have destroyed everything. Back at the warehouse, General Waller arrives to meet with Task Force X and asks them if the armor will be of any use to her. The Colonel assures her that the armor is powerful enough to take down all of the superheroes. She then dismisses the task force. As Deadshot turns to leave, the Colonel punches him down and tells him that he is not free to leave, claiming that he will have to serve 5 years under Cadmus running secret missions for them before he is free. He warns Deadshot that if he tries to leave before then, he will find himself back in prison waiting on death row. Hearing this, Deadshot asks the Colonel what General Waller has on him, but he only responds by saying that he does not need to be blackmailed in order to serve his country. Back at the Watchtower, John and Green Lantern stand outside the interrogation room as they watch one of the Watchtower crew members, Vance, sitting inside, looking nervous. Green Lantern asks John how he knows that Vance is a traitor, to which he responds by saying that he was the only one whose mind he could not read, claiming that Cadmus must have provided him with tech that allowed him to block his mind. Despite this, Green Lantern is not convinced, and when he hears John claim that he is going to erase 2 years' worth of memories from Vance's mind, he tries to tell the Martian Manhunter that they can no longer trust anyone on the Watchtower. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos, and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.